Welcome back to Trust Me, Bro. 1 year ago, vibe coding meant asking AI to build you a landing page. This week, it means something completely different. We don't know what the final form of agentic interaction looks like yet. Perplexity Computer and Replit Agent 4 are glimpses, not the answer. But the direction is clear. But before we dig in, did you know 40% of you listening aren't following us? Come on, guys, hit that follow button and collect our episodes on pods.media. So imagine waking up, right? You grab your morning coffee, you find out your laptop spent the last 8 hours successfully negotiating a vendor contract.
Right, just completely on its own.
Yeah, on its own. Negotiating a contract, redesigning your company's landing page, and deploying a brand new database architecture, all while you were literally asleep.
It sounds totally ridiculous.
It sounds like science fiction. But that is not science fiction anymore. That is literally what happened in the tech world this week. And that's our mission for today's deep dive. We're unpacking a stack of sources that show a massive sudden pivot. We are officially moving away from basic conversational AI and entering the era of the everything machine and persistent autonomous agents.
Yeah, and it is so crucial that you, the listener, are paying attention right now because the ground is, well, it's shifting beneath our feet. What's fascinating here is that we are witnessing the complete rewriting of the rules of software, right in front of us.
Completely.
We are officially moving away from the era of conversational AI. Those tools we're unpacking today, they are not just generating text anymore.
No.
They are actively executing these really complex, multi-layered goals over extended periods of time. And they use a framework called agentic workflow to do it.
Let's unpack this because the absolute best piece of evidence we have for this massive pivot just dropped this week. Perplexity Computer for Enterprise. And we need to be really, really clear about what this actually is. Because for the last 2 years, we've lived in this prompt-based world. You type instructions into a little chat box, and you get an output.
Right, a very linear relationship.
Exactly. But Perplexity Computer is entirely different. It's this overarching platform designed to run multi-step workflows across your entire business.
Yeah, and it connects to, over 400 enterprise apps?
Yeah, over 400. Slack, Jira, everything. And you don't give it a prompt anymore. You give it a core objective.
And the mechanism behind that shift is what makes it so revolutionary because traditional conversational AI, it relies on just predicting the next word in a sequence based on whatever prompt you gave it.
Right, the autocomplete on steroids thing.
Exactly, autocomplete on steroids. But agentic AI, like what Perplexity is deploying here, it uses something called chain of thought processing, and it combines that with tool use routing.
Tool use routing. Okay, wait, give me an analogy for that because it sounds dense.
Okay, so to put it in perspective, think of the old AI like a brilliant chef who was completely paralyzed.
Oh, wow.
Right? They know exactly what to do, but you have to physically hand them the salt, ask, how much, and then pour it yourself based on their instructions.
So you're doing all the actual manual labor.
Exactly. You are the hands. But agentic AI gives the chef hands. They can taste the soup, realize, hey, it needs salt, walk over, open the pantry, and season it themselves without ever asking you. You just tell them, I want a 3-course meal by 7 p.m.
I want a meal by 7.
Yeah.
That is a perfect way to look at it because if you tell Perplexity Computer, analyze our competitors' Q3 earnings, cross-reference it with our current product roadmap in Jira, and build a presentation highlighting where we're vulnerable, it doesn't just spit out a text summary and call it a day.
No, it actually makes a plan.
It autonomously makes a plan. It spins up its own internal sub-agents. One agent actually goes into Jira, another one reads the financial PDFs, and they just start executing.
And they might work on this for an hour, or, they might run in the background for 3 weeks, just constantly updating as new data hits your Slack channels.
Which is wild to think about. An agent just hanging out in your Slack for a month, doing work. And, our sources quote Perplexity's head of business on this.
Mm-hmm.
He noted they built this internally first, right, for their own team.
Yeah, eating their own dog food.
Exactly. And he called it the single biggest productivity unlock in our entire company history.
Which is saying something for an AI company. But this shift from prompts to autonomous goals, it forces a total restructuring of the underlying business model, too.
You mean the pricing?
Yeah, the pricing. Historically, the holy grail of enterprise software, SaaS, has been the per-seat pricing model.
Right. $30 a month per user.
Exactly. You charge a company a flat fee for every single employee who has a login, but Perplexity is completely abandoning that. They are shifting to a usage-based pricing model.
But wait, why would they abandon the per seat model? I mean, that has literally been the foundation of tech revenue for a decade. Every major player relies on predictable recurring revenue per user. It's like the golden rule of SaaS.
It was. But the compute asymmetry in an agentic world is simply too massive to standardize like that.
Compute asymmetry. Meaning what?
Meaning, when you're dealing with a unified everything machine, the work isn't uniform anymore. Generating a 30-second internal marketing video takes a vastly different amount of computational power, memory bandwidth, server cost, than generating a simple 40-page textual financial report.
Oh, I see. So if I ask the agent for a video, it costs them way more than if you ask for a text doc.
Precisely. So a flat monthly fee per user would either completely bankrupt the AI provider if power users go crazy, or it would massively overcharge the client who just needs basic text.
Right. So usage-based pricing just reflects the new reality.
Mm-hmm.
We aren't paying for human access to a software interface anymore.
Exactly. You are buying digital brainpower by the kilowatt.
By the kilowatt. I love that. You pay for the exact amount of computational calories the agent burns to achieve your goal. That makes total sense. But if Perplexity is changing how we buy and deploy brain power for enterprise workflows, we have to look at what that brain power is actually building.
Which brings us to the creative and engineering side of this whole pivot.
Yeah, Replit Agent 4.
Oh, man. This release, it caused such a shockwave that Paul Graham,
The Y Combinator guy.
yeah, the co-founder of Y Combinator, who has literally funded and witnessed essentially every major tech trend of the last 2 decades, he publicly called it a genuine paradigm shift.
And he doesn't just throw that phrase around.
He really doesn't, because a year ago, Replit was just a browser-based coding environment with some AI autocomplete tacked onto it.
Right, like a helpful little sidekick.
Yeah, but Agent 4 transforms it into a fully integrated creative canvas. Sites, apps, videos, everything.
And what's wild is how it actually achieves this. The reason Agent 4 can build an entire web app from scratch isn't just because the underlying AI model got, slightly smarter at coding. It's because it's utilizing recursive feedback loops.
Yeah, the loops are the secret sauce.
Right, so if you ask it to build a user authentication system, it writes the code, but then it automatically runs that code in a hidden, containerized sandbox.
It tests its own work.
Exactly. If it hits an error, the agent reads its own error message, debugs the syntax, and rewrites the code before you even see the output on your screen. It is literally acting as its own primary developer and its own QA tester simultaneously.
And that recursive loop is incredibly powerful, especially when you introduce the multiplayer aspect.
Well, the multiplayer is crazy.
It is, because we're now looking at parallel execution.
Yeah.
You can have multiple human beings working on the exact same file while the AI agent is running multiple discrete tasks at the exact same time.
So you aren't waiting for a linear loading bar anymore.
No, not at all. The agent can update the global CSS fonts across your whole app, ship a new database migration, and rewrite the marketing copy on the landing page simultaneously, all at the same time.
Okay, so this brings up a really provocative point from one of our sources, the AI engineering newsletter and podcast, Latent Space.
Oh, yeah, this was a bold claim.
Very bold. They pointed out that because of systems like Replit Agent 4, software engineering is now approximately solved.
Approximately solved.
Yeah. They argue that because the mechanical act of writing code is largely automated now, coding platforms have literally nowhere to go but up the stack, moving from writing syntax to designing entire products.
Yeah.
But I actually have to push back on this.
Okay, let's hear it. What's the concern?
I have to push back on the idea that software engineering is solved. Because think about it. If an autonomous agent is parallel processing massive code bases,
Yeah.
right, writing tens of thousands of lines of code in a few minutes using these recursive feedback loops, how on earth is a human supposed to debug that?
That is the million-dollar question.
Right. Like if the agent hallucinates a variable deep in some massive interconnected system, no human engineer is going to understand the logic because they didn't write it.
Yeah.
Aren't we just trading a relatively straightforward coding problem for a massive, completely unfixable maintenance nightmare?
See, that is the exact friction point the industry is grappling with right now. And validating your pushback here, yes. If you try to manage AI-generated code the exact way you manage human-generated code, it is an absolute maintenance nightmare.
It has to be. You'd be reading spaghetti code for weeks.
Exactly. But the paradigm shift that Paul Graham is talking about, it requires a shift in how we view the human role itself. The value of the human worker is moving entirely away from writing the code or, hunting for the missing semicolon.
Right.
Your job is no longer to be the bricklayer, it is to be the city planner.
The city planner.
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't debug the syntax anymore, you debug the system architecture.
Precisely. You implement system-level observability. You set up automated test suites that define the boundaries of what the application should do. And if the application fails the test, you don't go line by line looking for the bug in the syntax.
What do? You just tell the AI it failed.
Yeah, you tell the agent, hey, the authentication flow is failing at the database token handoff. Fix the architecture. The code itself is becoming this disposable, easily rewritten commodity.
Wow. Disposable code. That is a crazy concept for developers to wrap their heads around.
It really is. You need to think critically about where your own skills fit into this new stack. You must understand business logic, user psychology, and data architecture, not just syntax.
But there's a massive bottleneck here. If you're going to be a city planner, your AI project manager actually needs to be able to see the city.
Right. It needs visibility.
It can't live behind a web browser and some distant cloud server, constantly stopping its workflow to ask you for your Slack password, or like asking you to manually upload the latest Q3 spreadsheet. It needs persistent, root-level access to your files to actually do its job.
Which is terrifying for some IT departments.
Oh, absolutely terrifying. But that operational necessity has sparked a completely unexpected battleground. And that is the hardware war.
Yes. The race to win the local environment. Because Perplexity just announced a hardware initiative they are calling Personal Computer.
Right.
This is a dedicated, always-on system that runs locally. It doesn't live in the cloud. It sits on your desk. And it gives their agent permanent access to your local files, your running applications, your digital sessions, everything.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because this is their direct response to OpenAI's operator concept, right?
Exactly.
Everyone in the space is suddenly realizing that the ultimate prize isn't having the smartest language model in the cloud anymore. The ultimate prize is putting a persistent agent inside your physical machine.
And the public pitch tech companies are making for this local hardware is, of course, data security. They go to enterprise clients and say, hey, keep your proprietary data local, keep it safe behind your own firewall, don't send your sensitive spreadsheets to our servers.
Which sounds great to a CEO.
Oh, sounds fantastic. But while security is a legitimate benefit, winning the local environment is the actual strategic goal here. If we connect this to the bigger picture, whoever owns the local hardware essentially owns the user's entire digital context.
Because context is the missing ingredient for true autonomy. Like, think about it. A cloud AI is like meeting a brilliant assistant at a neutral coffee shop. Right?
Yeah, good analogy.
You bring them some printed files, they do some work, and then you both go your separate ways. They don't know anything about your broader life or your other projects. But putting an agent locally on your machine, that's giving your assistant the master keys to your house.
They literally live there.
They live there. They see how you organize your desktop folders. They monitor what tabs you leave open. They see your rough drafts before you even hit save.
And that deep, persistent context is exactly what allows the agent to anticipate your goals rather than just reacting to your prompts.
Right.
But the hardware requirements to run these massive AI models locally are intense, like really intense, which led to this incredible, completely unintended consequence in the consumer electronics market.
Oh, this is my favorite detail from the sources.
It's so funny. Our sources highlight that the Apple Mac Mini just accidentally became the most sought-after piece of AI hardware in the enterprise world.
I found this detail fascinating because Apple absolutely did not plan for this at all.
No, not even a little bit.
They designed the new Mac Mini as this affordable entry-level desktop for college students and basic home offices. But suddenly tech startups and AI developers are buying them up by the thousands and stacking them in server racks.
And it all comes down to a really specific architectural choice Apple made called unified memory.
Okay, explain unified memory for the listeners who aren't hardware nerds.
Sure. So in a traditional PC, the central processor, the CPU, and the graphics processor, the GPU, they have totally separate pools of RAM.
Right. They don't share.
Exactly. So when you run a massive AI model, the bottleneck is usually memory bandwidth. Moving the massive amounts of data back and forth between those two pools is slow, and it's really expensive energetically. That's why running AI locally used to require these specialized $10,000 desktop rigs with massive discrete graphics cards.
Just to handle the data transfer.
Yeah, but with Apple's unified memory, the CPU and the GPU share the exact same massive pool of high-speed RAM.
Wow.
So these tiny, incredibly power-efficient Mac minis can hold massive AI models entirely in memory without that bottleneck.
So Apple accidentally built the perfect, cheap, always-on server box to host these persistent local agents in people's homes and offices.
They really did. It perfectly illustrates how unpredictable this transition is, because we are watching enterprise software pricing, creative coding workflows, and physical consumer hardware all being radically disrupted at the exact same time.
It's all colliding.
It is. And if we synthesize all of the sources we've unpacked today, there are really three major colliding trends that you, the listener, absolutely must understand to navigate this new landscape.
Okay, let's lay them out. Wait, if we put this all together, we aren't just changing the software we use. The very nature of the interface is dissolving.
Right.
That's trend number one, blended canvases. Because for the last year, chat was the only input. We typed text in, we got text out.
Very one-dimensional.
Yeah, but with Replit and Perplexity, you are interacting with voice, with code, with visual design environments, and with live enterprise apps, all in the same window. The UI is becoming this continuous blended workspace where the agent just operates seamlessly across mediums.
And that blended workspace is powered by trend number two, persistent context, which is that local hardware piece we just dissected.
The Mac Mini effect?
Exactly. Agents with permanent access to your local systems finally solve the memory problem that has historically bottlenecked AI. You don't have to spend 20 minutes re-explaining your company's brand voice or your coding preferences every time you open a new browser tab.
Because it already knows.
The agent inherently knows because it lives in your environment. It has the context.
Which leads directly into trend number three. If these agents have persistent context and they can execute across blended canvases, we are moving from one agent per person to multiplayer agents.
Multiplayer agents.
It's an entire artificial workforce collaborating with a human workforce in real time.
And when you smash those three trends together, blended canvases, persistent context, and multiplayer agents, you create a business environment that is moving at a terrifying speed.
Terrifying is the right word.
Just look at the broader business lesson of Perplexity right now. Just 2 months ago, a significant portion of tech commentators had completely written them off.
Oh yeah, everyone was saying they were dead.
The narrative was that Google's Gemini or OpenAI's Search GPT was going to crush them, and that AI search was a dead-end feature, not a standalone product.
But they are back on top right now. And it's not because they tweaked their search algorithm.
No, it's because they were willing to completely burn their old product to build something new. They faced the innovator's dilemma head on.
They cannibalized themselves.
They did. They looked at their own highly successful search interface, realized it wasn't the final form of human-computer interaction, and they torched it to build Computer for Enterprise. That speed of reinvention, like the willingness to torch your own legacy before a competitor does, that is the new ultimate competitive advantage.
I understand the business theory there, I really do. But on a practical level,
Yeah.
how does an everyday listener, or even just a standard mid-sized company, possibly keep up with that?
It's a real challenge.
Because if the new competitive moat requires completely throwing away a workflow or a product that was perfectly fine just 8 weeks ago, that sounds exhausting. It sounds like a recipe for burning out your entire workforce with constant whiplash-inducing pivots.
It is absolutely exhausting if you cling to the old way of doing things, or if you view your company's value as being tied to a specific process. But I don't frame this as a reason to panic.
How do you frame it?
It is a mandate for extreme flexibility. In an agentic world, the ability to unlearn and adapt quickly is now infinitely more valuable than legacy knowledge.
Wow.
Standard companies don't need to invent new AI models to survive. They just need to build an internal culture where throwing out last month's workflow because an agent can now do it better is celebrated rather than resisted by middle management.
That makes a lot of sense. So what does this all mean? If we zoom all the way out and look at the stack of sources we've covered today, the core takeaway is this. Coding agents have solved coding. That was simply step one. And because they solved the underlying architecture, they are now coming for everything else. Marketing, project management, financial analysis, logistics. The everything machine is actively being deployed, and it operates on autonomous goals, not manual prompts.
And the central issue you have to face today is no longer whether your workflow gets automated. That is a given at this point.
It's happening.
It's happening. The issue is whether You are going to be the one who builds and directs the agent that does it. Are you going to step up and be the city planner directing this new autonomous workforce? Or are you going to stubbornly hold onto your trowel, complaining about the syntax while the bricks lay themselves?
That's a great image.
You need to look at your own daily tasks tomorrow morning through this exact lens.
It is a massive mindset shift.
No.
And looking at the sheer autonomy of these systems, it leaves me with one final, incredibly wild thought.
Okay, let's hear it.
It wasn't fully explored in the research, but it feels like the inevitable next step. If we are truly entering an era of persistent agents, digital proxies that run for weeks at a time, spinning up their own sub-agents, making autonomous decisions, and operating inside our local environments with the master keys to our digital houses.
Yeah.
What happens when your autonomous agent gets into a disagreement with another company's autonomous agent?
Oh, wow. That is going to be a fascinating tangled web to untangle.
Think about the mechanics of it. If your company's procurement agent is autonomously negotiating a software contract with a vendor's AI sales agent, and they get stuck in an infinite logic loop over a pricing tier, who intervenes?
That's a really good question.
How does the system flag a human to break the stalemate? And more importantly, who is legally and financially responsible when your digital proxy acting on a broad goal you set weeks ago makes a massive multi-million-dollar mistake while you are literally asleep in your bed?
The liability issue is going to be massive.
It's huge. We are rapidly moving from the clean, binary world of prompt and response chatbots into a deeply murky reality where our machines are acting as our legally binding representatives. It's not just a technological shift anymore. It's a profound legal and operational one.
Absolutely.
Something to seriously think about as you start handing out those master keys to your local hardware. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.